It's 9:14 in the morning. You open your laptop, check your email, and pause. For a second before replying. Just a second. Somewhere, that second is recorded. Not what you wrote, not what you said, just the pause. And somewhere else, a manager is staring at a screen, trying to override a decision, but the button is grayed out. She clicks it again. Nothing happens. We'll come back to her. For now, stay with that pause, because when you sit down at your computer, you're not just working, you're being measured. How long it takes you to start typing, how often you switch tabs, how long you hover before opening something, even the way your mouse moves isn't random anymore. You've never tracked this. But something else has. Let's call her Sarah. She's good at her job. Her reviews say that. She hits her targets. She stays late when it matters. 6 months ago, she applied for a promotion. She didn't get it. The feedback was vague. Alignment with growth metrics. She accepted it. Because what do you question when nothing actually feels wrong? What Sarah doesn't realize is that something has been quietly building a version of her. Not her personality. Not her intentions. Her patterns. Every pause. Every scroll. Every moment she hesitates before hitting send. This is behavioral fingerprinting. Not what you do, but how you do it. It knows how fast she types on a Monday versus a Friday. It knows her average response time to messages from her manager versus a colleague. It tracks how quickly she scrolls through documents, whether she reads to the end or stops halfway. It even knows how long she waits before joining a meeting after the link appears. None of these feel like data. They feel like habits, like personality, like the small, invisible rhythms of being a person at work. But to the system, they're inputs. And from those inputs, it builds something very specific. A version of you that never slows down, never hesitates, and every day you are compared against it. Not against other people, against your ideal version. A version of you that doesn't need to think, doesn't need to pause, doesn't second guess. And the cruelest part is, the better you perform, the higher the standard becomes. Your best day becomes the new baseline. And every normal day after that starts to look like a decline. So when you stop, even for a second, you're not just thinking, you're falling behind. Now meet Marcus. He works in a warehouse. He drives a forklift. He's been there 4 years. Last month, they gave him a wrist scanner. They said it was for inventory, but it vibrates when he moves too slowly. Not by much. Just enough to notice it tracks how long each task takes, how fast he moves between shelves, how his pace compares to everyone else on the floor. He takes a break, just a little longer than usual. Nothing happens. No one says anything, but somewhere it's recorded. And over time, that becomes a pattern. And that pattern becomes a score. Marcus doesn't work at a desk. He doesn't use a laptop, but the system found him anyway. He mentioned it once to a coworker, the vibration thing. His coworker shrugged and said, "Yeah, mine does that too." Neither of them asked what it meant. Neither of them knew who to ask. And that's the thing about a system that doesn't speak. You can't argue with it. You can only feel it and keep moving. Now go back to Sarah. She's in a meeting, a routine check-in. She answers clearly, then pauses, just for a second before finishing her thought. A normal pause. A human pause. But the system doesn't hear her words. It measures how certain she sounds. Not her sentences, her confidence. Whether she starts with "I think" or "we should." Whether her tone rises at the end like a question or lands flat like a decision. She corrects herself mid-sentence, shifts from uncertain to direct, and moves on. She doesn't think about it, but somewhere that shift is logged, and slowly, without ever telling her, it adjusts her score. Higher, lower, closer to the version it prefers. And this is where things change. Because the system isn't just watching anymore. It's predicting who is engaged, who is slowing down, who might leave, and who isn't worth keeping. It doesn't need to understand why someone is having a bad week. It doesn't need to know about the sick parent, the broken sleep, the medication that makes mornings harder. It only sees the pattern. And when the pattern dips, the score follows. The system doesn't make decisions. It just places a number in front of the person who does. Now go back to that manager. Her name is Elena. A year ago, she fought for someone on her team. The numbers said, "Let them go." Elena said no. She made the case herself, went above the dashboard, and kept them. That person went on to lead one of the best quarters her team ever had. That was the old system. This quarter, there's a new interface. She's reviewing her team, a dashboard in front of her, engagement scores, activity patterns, risk indicators. One column reads, retention risk, high. There's a name on that list. Someone she considers one of her best. Her instinct says keep them. The system says otherwise. She moves her cursor and pauses. Then clicks. Nothing happens. The button is grayed out. The system didn't replace her decision. It replaced her ability to make one. And if you're starting to notice this, the pattern behind the pattern, you're probably already inside it. And once you see it, it's hard to unsee. Think about how often you've felt this without naming it. That review that didn't match what you knew about yourself. That decision that came from somewhere above your manager. But no one could explain exactly where, that moment where something felt off, but there was nothing clear to push against. That's usually where systems like this live, in the space between what you feel and what you're allowed to question. And if this is starting to change how you look at the way you work, do something with that. A like helps this reach people who are being measured like this without even realizing it. Subscribing tells the algorithm this kind of thinking matters. And if something here felt familiar to you, leave a comment. I read every single one, and I respond. Because systems like this only work when they stay invisible. And right now, you're making it visible. Now zoom out. Because this isn't new. 100 years ago, there was a man with a stopwatch, standing behind workers on a factory floor, timing every movement. The idea was simple. Measure everything, and you can control it. For a long time, that idea faded. Millions of people working from kitchens and bedrooms, and managers had no way to know what was happening. That uncertainty became a market, and an entire industry stepped in to sell visibility back to the people who lost it. Not as a camera, not as a supervisor, as software. Quiet, invisible. The stopwatch never left. It just learned how to hide. Now it lives inside your laptop, inside your meetings, inside your messages, watching things you don't know how to adjust. The pauses, the rhythm, the moments where you stop just to think. And here's what makes it different from any boss you've ever had. A boss can be wrong, and you can tell them. A boss can misread you, and you can explain. But a score doesn't listen. It doesn't have a door you can knock on. There's no conversation, no context, no let me explain what happened that week. Just a number, moving up or down, in a system you were never invited to see. Sarah gets home that night. She closes her laptop, makes dinner, and doesn't think about work. But her score is already calculated, compared, weighted, stored, filed next to every other day she's ever worked. And somewhere, a line on a graph either went up or it didn't. She won't get a notification. She won't get an email. No one will tell her what today was worth. But tomorrow, when she opens her laptop, the system will already know what it expects from her, and it will be watching to see if she meets it. She'll pause just for a second before she starts. So the next time you pause just for a second, ask yourself something simple. When you hesitate before typing, is that you thinking, or is that a data point? When you take a moment before joining a meeting, is that normal or is that a delay? And if this changed how you see the way you work, there's another system you interact with every single day. One that quietly decides what you see, what you miss, and what you believe is important. It's on your screen right now. Pick it, and I'll see you there.